Psychology shows us truths about the human mind that are both fascinating and unsettling. Have you ever stopped to wonder why we so easily blame others for our failures while taking credit for our successes? This isn't just arrogance, it's a deep instinct, a defense mechanism built into the way we protect our fragile self-esteem. Imagine realizing that every finger you point outward is a mirror, reflecting your own hidden fears, insecurities, and unspoken shame. What if I told you that nearly everyone does this, often without realizing it? That every time we shift blame, we silently erode trust, distort reality, and hold ourselves back from true growth. Psychology reveals that this isn't merely a flaw, it's a doorway into understanding ourselves, confronting our vulnerabilities, and reclaiming control over our lives. The moment you recognize the patterns of blame shifting, you step into a space where honesty, empathy, and courage can transform not only how you see the world, but how the world sees you. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes we'll uncover how this hidden force shapes our relationships, our choices, and even our destiny, and how facing it can ignite the most profound change within you. Psychology offers a fascinating lens through which we can understand human behavior, and one of its most striking phenomena is blame shifting. At its core, blame shifting is not merely about making excuses or avoiding responsibility. It is a deep-seated mechanism that protects our fragile sense of self. Imagine a person who fails at an important task at work or in life. Perhaps a project collapses or a relationship fractures. The instinctive reaction for some is not reflection but projection, to place the fault squarely on others, colleagues, or circumstances. What makes this truly shocking is that it often happens unconsciously, without the person even realizing they are evading accountability. The human mind is wired to defend itself, and blame shifting is a cunning strategy. It temporarily shields one from feelings of shame, inadequacy, and failure, yet it carries a hidden cost. While it may offer immediate relief, it distorts reality, erodes trust, and disrupts relationships. The viewer may be stunned to consider that nearly everyone, at some point, engages in this behavior, consciously or not. It is a silent thief of integrity and growth. In social situations, blame shifters manipulate perception, crafting a narrative that maintains their image of competence while subtly casting shadows on others. What is perhaps most engaging and frightening is the universality of this tendency. Psychology reveals that blame shifting is not restricted to a type of person. It is a reflection of the vulnerabilities inherent in all human minds. Recognizing it in ourselves and others opens a doorway to understanding the delicate balance between self-preservation and self-deception. Psychology uncovers truths about human behavior that are both fascinating and unsettling, and one of the most compelling is the connection between blame shifting and fragile self-esteem. At first glance, blaming others may seem like a simple act of avoidance, but beneath the surface lies a turbulent struggle to protect one's self-worth. Imagine a person who faces criticism or failure. Perhaps they are rejected at work, fail an exam, or falter in a personal relationship. For someone with vulnerable self-esteem, these moments feel like personal annihilation. The mind reacts not with calm reflection, but with a desperate need to safeguard its sense of value, and the easiest weapon is to cast blame elsewhere. What makes this particularly shocking is that this behavior can appear charming or rational on the surface. Blame shifters often construct convincing narratives, pointing to external factors, timing, or other people as the source of failure. To an outsider, it may seem like mere explanation, but in reality it is a psychological shield, a defense mechanism, preventing the painful confrontation with personal inadequacy. It's an instinctual attempt to maintain an illusion of competence, a fragile mask that hides fear and insecurity. The engagement factor is in realizing how subtle yet pervasive this pattern is. It seeps into workplaces, families, and friendships, quietly eroding trust while offering the shifter a fleeting sense of control. Psychology reveals that those who blame others are often the most terrified of facing their own limitations, making every accusation, every deflection, a mirror of their hidden vulnerability and unspoken dread. Psychology exposes the hidden forces that shape our perceptions, and one of the most startling is the role of cognitive biases in blame shifting. At the heart of this phenomenon lies the self-serving bias, a mental shortcut that convinces us to take credit for success while deflecting failure onto others. Imagine completing a project successfully. Your mind basks in pride, attributing brilliance to your skills and effort. But when the same project collapses, the instinct flips. Suddenly, colleagues, timing, or circumstances become the culprits. What shocks the observer is how seamless and unconscious this process can be. Most people genuinely believe their version of reality while manipulating the narrative to protect their self-image. This bias operates like a hidden puppet master, shaping interactions, decisions, and relationships without overt awareness. In social settings, it can escalate conflicts, as one person's rationalizations collide with another's experience of reality. The engagement factor lies in recognizing that this is not a rare flaw, but a near universal tendency. Psychology suggests that nearly everyone succumbs to self-serving distortions, especially under stress or scrutiny, which is why workplaces, families, and friendships are often arenas of unacknowledged tension. What makes this deeply unsettling is the way it erodes accountability while masquerading as reasoned explanation. We think we are objective, yet our minds bend reality to shield ego, turning blame shifting into a silent but potent force that preserves comfort at the cost of truth. Observing it in oneself or others can be profoundly disorienting, a revelation that challenges our confidence in perception and forces a confrontation with the fragile, often self-deceptive architecture of the human mind. Psychology reveals unsettling truths about human interactions, and one of the most disturbing is the social and interpersonal impact of blame shifting. At first glance, blaming others may seem like a private coping mechanism, but its ripple effects reach far beyond the individual, quietly corroding trust and intimacy in relationships. Imagine a team at work where one member constantly deflects responsibility for mistakes, projects fail, tensions rise, and collaboration breaks down. The shocking reality is that this behavior doesn't just inconvenience others, it reshapes social dynamics, creating fear, resentment, and silent hostility that can linger for years. In personal relationships, the consequences are equally profound. When one partner constantly shifts blame, friendships or marriages can become arenas of constant tension, where communication breaks down and empathy is stifled. People begin to guard themselves, altering their behavior to avoid being scapegoated, which gradually erodes authenticity and mutual respect. The engagement lies in realizing how subtle and pervasive this effect can be. Often, those on the receiving end may not even fully grasp why they feel frustrated, anxious, or betrayed, while the blamer maintains a facade of innocence. What makes this phenomenon truly shocking is how normal it can appear in daily life. From families to workplaces, almost everyone encounters it, yet few recognize the long-term damage it causes. Psychology teaches that blame shifting is not merely a character flaw, but a force that shapes social reality. Ties, subtly manipulating perception and control. The act of deflecting responsibility, while seemingly small, can dismantle trust, distort communication, and quietly poison the environments we rely on for support, growth, and connection. Psychology uncovers layers of human behavior that are often hidden in plain sight, and one of the most striking is the role of underlying emotions in blame shifting. At first glance, assigning fault to others may appear calculated or manipulative, but beneath this action lies a storm of fear, shame, guilt, and insecurity. Imagine a person confronted with a mistake at work or in a relationship. Instead of acknowledging their error, a surge of anxiety and fear of judgment triggers an almost instinctive reaction: blame someone else. What shocks the observer is how automatic this process can be, as if the mind is wired to protect itself from emotional pain at any cost. The intensity of these emotions makes blame shifting compelling and persuasive. Fear of appearing incompetent, shame for failing to meet expectations, or guilt for harming others, even unintentionally, fuels the need to deflect responsibility. The behavior becomes a psychological shield, a means to preserve emotional stability while momentarily avoiding the crushing weight of self-reproach. The engagement comes from realizing that this is not limited to a few flawed individuals. It is a universal pattern, embedded deeply in the human psyche, emerging most strongly under stress or scrutiny. What makes it profoundly unsettling is that these emotions operate invisibly, silently guiding behavior, creating tension and damaging relationships without overt malice. Blame shifting becomes a defense mechanism that disguises vulnerability as rational explanation. Psychology shows that what appears as arrogance or manipulation often masks deep emotional turmoil, revealing that human behavior is rarely simple, and even actions that hurt others may be rooted in the desperate, hidden struggle to manage inner fear and insecurity. Psychology exposes the hidden pathways through which human minds grow and falter, and one of the most striking revelations is the path to awareness and growth in overcoming blame shifting. Many people assume that blaming others is merely a flaw to be corrected, but psychology shows it is a deep-seated defense mechanism that requires conscious effort to recognize and dismantle. Imagine realizing that every time a project fails or a personal relationship suffers, you instinctively point the finger outward. The shock comes when you understand that these patterns have quietly shaped your life, influencing choices, relationships, and even your sense of self. Without you fully noticing, the first step is brutal honesty with oneself, an unsettling confrontation with the parts of the mind that prefer illusion over reality. Recognizing a tendency to blame requires peeling back layers of denial, ego protection, and self-deception. The engagement lies in realizing that this is not about moral failing alone. It is about rewiring a habitual mental shortcut, a process that most people avoid because it forces them to face discomfort, inadequacy, and vulnerability. Psychology highlights that accountability, empathy, and self-reflection are the antidotes, yet they demand courage. Each honest admission of responsibility feels like an emotional risk, exposing the self to judgment both internally and externally. What is shocking is how transformative this process can be. By confronting blame shifting head-on, individuals can reclaim relationships, strengthen trust, and cultivate genuine self-confidence. The mind, once enslaved by automatic defense mechanisms, begins to operate with clarity, integrity, and a newfound resilience, revealing that growth is not merely about success, but about mastering the subtle, often invisible currents of one's own psychology. The psychology of blame shifting is not just a behavior, it is a mirror reflecting our deepest insecurities, fears, and unacknowledged emotions. By understanding why we deflect responsibility and how it shapes our relationships and choices, we gain the power to confront our vulnerabilities, embrace accountability, and cultivate genuine growth. Recognizing these patterns is the first step towards stronger self-awareness, deeper trust with others, and a life lived with integrity. I encourage each of you to take this insight into your own journey. Reflect honestly, face the truths you may have avoided, and transform your mind from a place of defense into a place of empowerment. Good luck on this journey of self-discovery and growth. Thank you for listening, and may you carry these lessons forward to build stronger relationships, deeper understanding, and a more courageous life.